have Ryan Griffin. Let's make sure that Ryan, are you there? I just want to make sure you're off mute.
I am. You guys can hear me?
We can hear you. Welcome to the call. And it's such a pleasure to interview you today. And I'm really curious to ask you a lot of questions. Really, I want to focus on what it's like to be on such a winning team. What's mindset and physical, all that. But let me pull back a little bit. So you went to high school here in Westlake Village, and we have agents from all over California. But you went to Westlake Village, and you're kind of a hometown guy, and grew up. And then when you went to the NFL draft, you were originally with the Saints, and then after the Saints went, obviously to Tampa Bay, and therefore just got your Super Bowl ring. I don't know if we see the ring today or not, but anyway.
I'll have it today. Sorry.
But we're excited. We're excited to have you, obviously, on the call. And so first and foremost, could you give us a little bit of your, a little bit more context with that journey of yours to get to where you're at today?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm from Westlake, but I actually went to I went to Loyola High School for 2 years, and then I went to Chaminade. So Loyola in downtown LA, and then Chaminade in West Hills. From there, I wasn't very highly recruited. I went to Tulane, which is in New Orleans. And once again, wasn't that highly recruited coming out of college, and was undrafted with the Saints. I ended up sticking around there for 2.5 years, and then it got cut every year. And the first 2 years I resigned. The third year I went to the Bucks, and I've been with the Bucks ever since. So this is my 6th year with the Bucks, 8 years total in the league, and finally just got fitted for a Super Bowl ring. So hopefully that's coming in soon.
Okay, great. Well, I find it interesting because, again, as a free agent, like that persistence you had to have, that discipline to say, I'm going to stay with it and keep going. To stay in a league like the NFL for 8 years it takes a lot. It takes incredible discipline and focus and things like that. But how did you overcome that? Because as a free agent and things like that, feeling like you were cut early on and then you kept with it. Tell me what that was like and what you focused on in order to get where you're at today.
Yeah, I mean, that was tough. Honestly, that's been the hardest part, is you kind of I realized in college that I really love football. And so I'd do whatever it takes to keep making it. So whenever I got cut, I just had to be mentally tough and say, hey, look, I know I'm good enough. That's not the issue. It's just, for whatever reason, the politics, the NFL and everything, it wasn't working out. So every year my job's on the line, but I kind of like that pressure and I enjoy that. So I want the pressure to be on me, and I want it to be up to me to determine whether I make the team or not. So it has every year, and here I am.
And what has it been like? Because there's times when you've been, quarterback gets injured, you jump in the game. You have no time for real warm up. I mean, you warm up before the game, but when you're called onto the field, you're in go time. Tell me what that's like, because that in my opinion has to be one of the hardest things. It's similar to a kicker. Kicker comes out on the field because they scored a touchdown, then they got to kick without having much practice to warm up to that. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, at least the kicker knows what side of the field we're on, so they have a little bit more of a heads up than I do. But yeah, I mean, you're just sitting there waiting, and then every time the quarterback takes a hit, you're kind of going like, oh, do I need to go check and see if I need my helmet? You're just kind of sitting, waiting. It's pretty nerve-wracking, and then whenever your time's called, your heart starts racing, but you just got to breathe and go out there. And once you get out there, it's fine. You're used to doing it. You've been doing it for so long.
And explain to us, there's the physical discipline, but what is the mental discipline to maintain at such a high level year after year after year? How do you divide both, and how do you stay that focused? Again, the mental discipline, I think, is sometimes even harder to maintain over long periods of time.
Yeah, once you get to this level, I mean, everybody's physically gifted. That's not the case. So you got to be disciplined and take care of your body and everything like that, but it's really all mental. It's about 90% mental, and so that's where it pays to be mentally tough, and that's where you put all the work in. Your guys can separate themselves with their mental work more than their physical.
And we see sometimes really, really gifted, spectacular athletes that can't really mesh well with teams. And you see some of those people exit the league just because they don't have that teamwork or the spirit and things like that. So explain to me a little bit about like, you know, that team discipline as well, like how you work well with the team, and what does that look like as it comes to the team sport?
Yeah, I mean, I've been on teams that weren't very good, and I've been on teams that have won Super Bowls. So the teams that win Super Bowls are the ones that truly care about each other and care about winning. And so the team discipline is pretty simple on those teams. You know, you don't have to bring people along because everybody wants to be on the same page and everybody wants to give the same amount of effort. So the team discipline can be tough on bad teams, and that's just part of it. You know, crazy thing here was we had good team discipline. We just weren't winning. And so I think it was the Tom Brady effect. He kind of just elevated everybody's play. And that's what set us apart this year.
So, because that was going to be one of my questions, I thought you guys were kind of rebuilding in a solid team. If you looked at the math of the players that were there, the record should have been higher, and yet you bring in a Brady from the outside, and all of a sudden magic happens. And the season didn't start out that way, but really grew over time and just got better and better. What was that magic? What happened there? How did it gel? Why were there such a difference by having a leader like that join the team?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. The difference between having, I mean, I think Jameis is a great quarterback, but the difference between having Jameis and Tom, Tom's won 6 Super Bowls heading into this past year. And so there's only so many people you can bring on to the team that gives you that kind of credibility at that position, which is honestly the biggest part. I mean, you're talking about a bunch of guys that are grown men. And so it's tough to look at that position of somebody that hasn't won a Super Bowl and the other men in the locker room be like, all right, we know this guy can get us there. But then once you had Tom, it's like, all right, he's done it 6 times. He's been to however many, 10 Super Bowls. So like everybody knows that we have that piece. And then it just gives everybody the trust that we have the ability to get there, which kind of eliminates kind of the struggle. So like every game, there's going to be something that goes wrong. And then if the team doesn't believe that we can win, then you usually don't. But whenever you have a guy that everyone believes in, it's pretty simple. Everybody still gives their best effort no matter what happens. And then usually you end up victorious. That was the same thing in New Orleans with Drew. Is at all times, everybody was like, all right, we're still going to win because we have Drew. And that was, I felt the same thing this year when we had Tom.
Yeah, I mean, Drew as well is like one of the like historic best all-time quarterbacks, right? So as you kind of mentored under or with Drew, tell me what that was. How did he help you to advance your game and to make you a better player? Even though you're at the end of the day, you could wind up being his competitor when it comes to, you know, longevity in the career. Like, how did he mentor you?
Honestly, it's why I've made it for so long. I remember after my first year, we played the Eagles in the playoffs, and it was the year Nick Foles was a Pro Bowl quarterback. And so we played him. And after the game, we had beat him. And I was talking to Nick. I had known him from a couple of camps earlier on, a couple of years ago. And he asked me, he's like, hey, I'd love to get together with you after this season and kind of pick your brain on what Drew does to prepare for every week. And it just blew my mind. I was like, this guy's having a Pro Bowl year and he's literally winging it. He has no idea what he's doing. And so I kind of got a blueprint from Drew, and kind of we were talking about with the mental discipline. I mean, he's physically gifted, but he really set himself apart with the mental side of the game. So I just learned how to prepare every week, how to take care of your body, how to watch film. And so that's how I've stuck around for so long.
So could you share some of those disciplines you're talking about? So clearly his diet is one piece of that. His physical regimen and workout is another one. He probably gets massage and everything else to take care of his physical body. But what other things is he doing mentally besides watching film on the next competitor and things like that to really stay at the top of the game at such a high level? Is there any other, I don't want to say tricks, but what other discipline?
Are you asking for the secrets, Rick? Are you trying to sell this?
Yeah, of course. No, but just like in general, what is it that that top performers do? Because I think it correlates very directly with business. It just does. I see top performers winging it like a Nick Foles, and yet the second that they get systems involved in structure, they can elevate to another whole level pretty quickly when they do it in a structured environment.
Yeah. Okay. So his mental routine, would be Monday. I mean, a lot of it is film based. So Monday we would all do it together. We'd watch 2 games of the opponent. So let's say we're playing Dallas. You'd watch the previous 2 weeks that Dallas played and kind of watch them on film just to get a general idea and visualize how we match up. So Monday's more of like, all right, how do we match up our skill players versus their skill players, our O-line versus their D-line. And then Tuesday you come in and you watch a lot more of like first and second down. So he kind of comes up with an idea on first and second down, what the game's going to be like, what kind of pressures they bring. You have to be able to see what they're going to bring before they bring it. So whether that's tips or clues or personnel that they put in the game. So you're looking for a person, you're looking for a way they're lined up, you're looking for, or is the ball into the field or is it in the boundary? And then Wednesday you practice. So you're practicing first and second down. So you're able to practice those things you visualize. Wednesday's third down, same thing. Thursday's red zone, same thing. Friday's 2-minute. And then on Saturday, he does something that no one else really does is on Saturday after our walkthrough, he'll be on the field by himself and he'll be visualizing and actually on the field throwing without a ball, without anybody out there. He'll be taking drops. He'll be taking snaps. He'll be visualizing what he saw on Monday. He'll be visualizing what he saw in the red zone. He'll be visualizing what he saw in 2-minute, and he calls his own 2-minute. So he'll go through his calls, what he's expecting, where he thinks the ball's going for like 2 hours on the field with nobody else out there. So that's like, he goes above and beyond. And I mean, it's obviously work for him.
Yeah. That's next level, right? That's really focused.
Oh yeah. It's unreal.
Incredible. So now we take a Tom Brady. Tom Brady crushes it up in New England, comes down to Miami. The commentators are like, is he washed up? Is this, is that? A lot of people were counting him out, right? Like I've always thought Tom is just a superstar, and he's probably one of the most competitive people I've seen out there. Like maybe Stafford can be sometimes out there like that, but I see that competitiveness in him. That's hard to be at that level for so long. Like when he came into Tampa Bay, he had to learn a new system, a new operation, new receivers, new front line, obviously new snapper, like everything, right? So all these pieces, like when he first started, like it was trying to play with like a different set of cards. Like it's hard to operate in a different system really quickly off the bat. So how did the team come together to help him to be better and be part of that team? What could you share some of that?
Yeah, I mean, I was really impressed by that. When Peyton went from Indianapolis to Denver, he basically brought his playbook and brought it in and said, all right, we're going to run this because this is what I know. And Tom showed up on day one, and it was during COVID. So we're virtual. I mean, we got together and worked out at a field, and he literally was like, all right, call play for me. And he was like, all right, what about this protection? Like, call this out for me. So he came in and learned our offense, which he's 42 years old at the time. Yeah, nobody does, teach an old dog new tricks.
And it's not usual with a high performer who've operated at a high level for a long period of time. Most people would say, I know how to do it. Let me bring it in. And he didn't. He adopted into the systems and models of Tampa Bay, which is really-
and he's a phenomenal leader. And that was one thing that was a great leadership tactic and quality of his. Is he said, I mean, he wasn't like, I'm better than you guys, do it my way. He said, your way works. I can learn, and I'll learn. And so he went through the same struggles that everybody else did, which made everybody really appreciate him more for it.
I was going to say that's a great way to get the team to really adopt him and into the cohesive team. Like it felt like it was 4 games in, and all of a sudden there was a new momentum, and you saw the whole team kind of rising, and you saw him reestablish his leadership to pull everybody through once it felt like he had the confidence, in himself on with a new playbook to be able to operate at that level.
Yep. So, no, I mean, no doubt.
Yeah. And what did you see along that way with the progress of, let's say, again, as a team gels, how did the other players on the team respond positively, negatively, whatever, like, because again, as you rebuild with a new leader, you like, some things gel and some things don't gel. How did the team kind of morph, along the way, or what changes got made?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton, and I kind of made it seem like there was no problems all year because we just went and won the Super Bowl, but that wasn't the case. We had guys that didn't buy in. They wanted bigger roles, and they were used to having bigger roles, and so um, there were some attitude issues, and there were some bad teammates that needed to be brought along, and that's where he sets himself apart. It's like he's like, "We're gonna win a Super Bowl. I've done it. I know we will. So you either can get on board with us and be a good teammate with us and you'll be a part of it, or they're probably just going to get rid of you because you're being a bad teammate." And just like that, they just, hey, I'm on board.
Yeah, and you can see that because that's typical with a new leader brought in. You're going to get people who really believe and will excel. He probably got some receivers that, like, if you look at their stats, would have said it's a mediocre to maybe good receiver, that all of a sudden their game overnight seemed to escalate. And it's really the chemistry between the QB and the receiver at that point. And if you get a good receiver with the right QB, can all of a sudden that magic can turn on. And it literally was just the chemistry and how they read each other, right? Is it?
It is. That's it too. But the really fascinating thing to me is there's always competition, right? Especially at this level, like every guy's an alpha, every guy wants to be the guy. But when you buy into the team, it no longer mattered how many targets you had, how many yards you had. You wanted every guy to be successful because you wanted to win the Super Bowl more than you wanted to be successful yourself. And so once that happened, there's no longer that like me. It's like, all right, honestly, don't care who does it. Could be the guy ahead of me. I want him to score. We need to score right here and win this game, which doesn't always happen.
Yeah. So share a little bit about that, because obviously, you go into games, you think you're going to win. You've done the playbook, you've done everything right, and you lost it, especially if you lose it in the last minute of the game. Explain how you get back in Monday and start that same kind of regiment for the next week. Like, explain that part of it, because again, it's tough on the mental stability to just take a hard loss and then pick back up, and next week you got to play your A game again.
It is tough. The losses hurt more than the wins feel good. But that was the big thing that we would always talk about, and Drew would always preach in New Orleans, is like, all right, everybody has a process. And I just told you guys Drew's process every week. But everybody's a little different, and we had a veteran team. So it was always like, all right, hey, we lost. It happens, but get back to your process. Don't let it affect your routine. What you're doing is working. So let's not deviate from the plan, and let's get back on the plan. And we know it'll be a different result next week. So it helped having veteran leadership and veteran guys that know that, like, hey, sometimes you have a gut-wrenching loss, but you still got to go back and do the same thing every week. A little tougher with a young team because sometimes you lose the guys.
Yeah. And what about when they bring in a new class the following year and they come in? How do you guys bring on the new people and acclimate them to the system and get them kind of get them coached up and coached into the systems? What does that look like?
It's important. Well, it's important to have leaders in every position group. So we have, Tom, and then we have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin in the receiver room, and then we have like guys like Ali Marpet and Ryan Jensen. And so it's important for them to get the alignment and teach them, all right, this is how you prepare. This is how you get your body right. This is how you study for a game. So it's important to get those young guys tied in with the right older guys, the right leaders, and teach them how to be a professional. Like we always talk about being a pro. This is how you are a successful pro. This is how you do work. This is a business and this is a job, and you have to treat it like that. And so it's important to have leaders to show those guys the way.
Yeah, and explain some of the coaching, because like I have a business coach. I have multiple business coaches actually that I report to and I consult with, and that really helped me to get to where I'm at. Explain the benefit of coaching, because I think that again has great crossover into business.
Yeah, and that's the thing is there's coaching, there's coaches, and so every group will have two coaches that guys can lean on, but then they'll also have the guys ahead of them, the older guys, they're also a coach. So you really have like 3 coaches at your position. And each one plays a different part. Sometimes one of the coaches is really good with X's and O's. So with studying, how to study for the game. And then sometimes the player usually is really good on the mental side. Like, hey, you just messed up. You just gave up a sack to our 43-year-old quarterback. This is how you bounce back. This is how you lock back in. This is how you respond. And then you have your head guy that really more unites everybody and brings everybody together. So everybody does have their role, and their role is extremely important because there's not a lot of times you get one coach over your position that can kind of handle all those things. Most of the guys either haven't played or they just don't understand how to teach it or talk about, the playing side, the mental side.
Okay. And say you have like, again, 3 different coaches. So even the newer people also still have coaches as they come in and get brought up. They're coached in a group. Obviously, you're going to have multiple private coaches that are coaching you. You're such a key position. But even like the linebackers, things like that, are they coached in a group, or are they coached one-on-one, or combination?
A group. So it's usually every group has a coach. So it's like linebackers, interior defensive linemen, pass rushers, and then you have corners have a coach, safeties have a coach. We have a billion coaches on our staff. So even the nickel has a coach, which is like this is more of like a sub defensive back, I think. So sorry, I don't know how to explain it to non-football people, but he's another position. He plays inside. So yeah, everybody has their coach, and they're coached as a group, but then certain players need more coaching, so they'll meet one-on-one with their coaches, especially if they have a vital role in calling the defense or calling the offense and telling people what to do. And then the players sometimes will meet together. So like I said, there's a lot of like players coaching players as well as coaches coaching players.
Okay. And then talk about like how involved is like the ownership of the 2 clubs you've played with, like versus the team coach and the coaches like that. What is the ownership involvement in general?
The least amount of ownership involvement, I'd say the better. I don't think that they know football as well. The biggest and best thing that the owners can do is support the team. That was the case in New Orleans. Is he was like, look, you guys got it. I trust you as the coach, as the GM, to make the big decisions. Whatever you make, I'll support you. It's big too, because you don't want the indecision from an owner in a coach or in a GM creates indecision on your team, because then you're not sure if that guy's going to be around. And so maybe that guy really likes you, and so you're afraid that if he leaves, then you're going to get cut, and then you're not playing as well, or you're worried about that. So it's really important for the owners to just support the team. Funds, honestly, like we have phenomenal ownership in Tampa. They've built a phenomenal indoor facility for us, which was huge. So that was them supporting us. Is we know we used to have to bus to St. Pete to practice where the Rays play if it were raining, or if it was raining and lightning. And so now they built an indoor facility. And so instead of losing 30 minutes there, 30 minutes back, we're able to walk over to the indoor facility. So little things like that go a long way for us.
Well, it also shows the vote of confidence from the ownership on their investment.
Yes. Yeah. To invest more in the team to win. Yeah.
So it's vision, it's capital, and it's also allowing, like, hiring the right people and allowing them to they're going to make mistakes. Your GMs are going to make mistakes. Mm-hmm. They're going to hire wrong. They're going to pay someone that they shouldn't have. They're going to make some bad deals. But the reality is you got to allow them to run the business. So otherwise you'll never have the leverage, and you'll never give them the autonomy to run a company, right? We learned
you can't micromanage.
Yeah, you can't micromanage your staff. And as this relates to agents running teams, you have to allow your people to make mistakes, and you have to allow them to run the business. You can't micromanage from the top. You'll never really be successful long term. I think that's a
100%
takeaway.
That's coaches and GMs as well. Yeah. So like that's like you're saying, it's a trickle down effect too. So like the owners are over the GM and the coach, and then sometimes the GM has more power over the coach. So then he's micromanaging what players are playing, and that causes an issue. And then Same thing. A coach will have more power over GM, so he'll micromanage which players are playing based off of what he thinks versus who we're paying, and makes the GM look bad. So everybody's got a role, and it's important for them to do the best in their role, but try not to step over their boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, you can even see it objectively as a consumer. You can see some of the owners out there that might be taking too active a role in there, what is caused in
Jerry Jones.
I didn't say the name, but it's
Yeah.
pretty obvious, and like that's someone I couldn't go work for that same reason. Like, he's got to be on the field, he's got to be running it, and again, that's not necessarily. I think that's what's holding back that team, and it's just an example at every level where you can see that the ownership can overstep. It means he's not trusting his people too, right? Like at the end of the day,
Exactly.
you gotta allow your people to really take the reins and go.
Yeah, and that's why some guys would like you're saying, like there's a great coach, but he's not going to go work for that organization. Like Al Davis was very big on micromanaging. So there'd be a great possible GM, but he doesn't want to be micromanaged, so he's not going to go there. So you lose out on a great hire.
Yeah, I agree. So what about regiment, again, discipline? Is there anything that you do specifically that again keeps your head focused? Because again, you walk out and like you got people at you all the time and things like that. It's exciting, but how do you stay mentally in the game all the time when it's season time?
I mean, once you get out there on the field, and there's no longer the people that can get a hold of you for, I mean, this is not me, this is more Tom, like pictures and stuff like that. Once it's just the team out there, then it's locked in, everybody's locked in, and you can see a flip it is switched. And that's the way I am, and everybody is. The intensity, once it's go time, goes up. And that's just how you have to be. Some guys can't handle it. And like we were talking about, the mental side, honestly, is the toughest part of this game. The physical, you've been doing it forever, isn't a big issue. So you have to be mentally tough, because some things are going to go wrong and you got to be able to bounce back from it. But you also have to be able to focus in and just lock in on what you're doing.
Okay. And as your career, again, 8 years in the NFL, is that over the norm? I think that's higher than the norm already, right? Like because Tom Brady is an anomaly. That's crazy that he's still operating at that level at his age. What does the future hold for you?
It's a great question, Rick. I don't know yet. I'm currently a free agent. But yeah, I've definitely lasted a lot longer than the average and what most people would expect. So I've been talking to a couple of teams, and I would like to obviously keep playing. I think the big thing for me is you just need like a shot, and it's really tough when you're an undrafted guy, but you need a shot to really start a couple games. And it's tough to get that opportunity, one, because you're just waiting for people to get hurt or suspended or stuff like that, which you never want, because these people and you don't want them to do bad or get hurt. And then once you get that shot, you got to do well. And then from there, I'd love to get a chance to start, be the starter on a team. But whatever it is, my big thing is I'm always worried about competing with myself. And that's kind of what's got me this far is, they always say competition. Well, unfortunately in our game, money talks. So it doesn't matter how well I play. Jameis was always going to be the starter because we were paying him $20 million. So you're just doing your job, but I'm always worried about how can I get better? How can I compete with myself? Because I know that if I keep playing better and I keep growing as a player, I'm always going to be on a team, and I'll just be one step closer to getting that shot to be a starter. Somebody might get hurt and I'll get that opportunity.
Right. Yeah, we've seen that through last 20 years. You see somebody out, next thing you know, as a backup gets a spot, and then they excel. We've seen that more than a few times.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So the boat, like, were you the one catching the trophy, or like I remember the images all over social media. I saw you helping Tom off the boat, right?
No. That was actually my old roommate caught the trophy, and then I was the one walking with Tom after. So it was funny that we ended up getting a lot of the publicity, and we're not necessarily the stars of the team of, Gronk and Tom.
Right. Yeah, that was pretty funny. So you mentioned Gronk. That's a great thing too. So a couple people that Brady really trusted, that he really wanted to be part of that team. And Gronk at that point was retired and came back for it. It was magic to watch that duo happen again and happen in a new arena. But it was great to see like them really mixing in that team really well. Fantastic. It's a fantastic thing to watch.
And you talk about a great teammate. I mean,
Yeah.
I know everyone's probably seen Gronk and what they have their image of him, but he's actually a really smart dude. He's goofy. He's goofy as all can be, but he's really smart and he really cares about everybody on the team. And he's a great guy to be around.
Yeah, I think he looks like he's always having fun on the field though too. Like that
Always.
joy, and when they score, I mean, Tom's running down and congratulating him like he could just go to the sideline and be done, but no, he'll run 20, 30 yards down the field and go congratulate his buddy, and it's just like this joyfulness, right? Like so even though playing at that high level, that joy in the job, because at the end of the day, I believe that those guys, whether they got paid or not, would still show up and do it because they love it so much.
I mean, that's a great point. We always, one of the like training camp where you're just like so tired, you're around each other forever and you're basically delusional. You always go through the questions, like the would you rathers and, if this happened, what would you do? And one of the things we always ask is, if you won the lottery, would you keep playing? And it's every single guy says yes. And so like, yeah, everyone complains about how hot it is and how tired you are. But like everyone really loves playing, or they have something else left to prove. It's like, yeah, once I do this, I'll be done. But yeah, if you gave me $1 billion right now, I'd still keep playing because I still have something to prove. I'm still a competitor, whatever it is. And so it's just, on the other side of that, I don't think people should give guys a hard time whenever they hold out for money, because this is like their one chance to make money. But at the same time, everybody truly loves the game and is a competitor and wants to play.
So who's your biggest critic? I would assume you would say yourself is the biggest critic. Like at that level of play, you're your own worst enemy sometimes. Like I've got to prove this, because you're not proving it for your family. You're not proving it to other people. I would assume that you're trying to prove it to yourself that I can do it. Is that true?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I don't care about Twitter trolls or people that say that you don't belong. It's just a competition with myself and proving it to myself.
Right. And the opposite can be true, because I watch this in our own organizations with people that can be their own worst enemy too. And the one obstacle from being truly successful, I see what I believe are great leaders that don't believe in themselves. And sometimes I believe in them more than they believe in themselves. And sometimes they just have to get out of their way and believe. Part of it's just like self-confidence and believing that they're truly as great as I see them to be.
I agree 100%. And that's part of being a leader too, is, we see guys like that have the talent and have the ability, and they just need to believe in themselves. So you have to build their confidence. And there's ways to do that in our profession without it being obvious. You can, hey, just grab them and be like, hey, let's get a little extra work after practice. Let's work on this one thing you're struggling with. You can put them in positions to succeed. There's certain plays that only so many guys in the NFL can make. And then there's certain plays that are pretty simple and are good ways to build confidence, ways to get guys the ball so that they're able to feel like they're getting better. They feel like they can do it at this level. And so that's the difference in coaching too, and leadership, is like putting guys in that position to be successful so that they can slowly build their confidence.
Yeah. And you got a younger brother that's quarterback as well, correct? And
he's a receiver at Boise.
What wisdom are you giving him?
Same thing that I was telling you guys about. It's like, look, the big thing too, competition, like I was talking about, competition's tough. He's a walk-on, but he's starting right now. So he wants to earn the scholarship. For a reason, he hasn't gotten one. But I told him, I was like, look, just compete with yourself. Just keep getting better. As long as you're getting better, like you're going to play. As long as you're playing, you're going to end up earning a scholarship. It's all a process, kind of we were talking about earlier. Yeah. And so my big thing with him is like, all right, you're smart. You know what your weaknesses are. Just keep working on them. If you build up your weaknesses, eventually they'll become your strengths. And as cliche as that sounds, Like that's what I've done, and it's worked for me, and it can be done. And so telling him just keep competing with yourself, because you can't compete with the guy on the team that runs a 4.340. He's my brother's never going to run a 4.3, unfortunately. But he can be smarter and get open in certain situations, or he can be tougher than him, or he could be stronger than him. So you can't really compete with the guy with the speed, but you can compete with yourself to get better so that you belong on the field.
Yeah, for sure. And surrounding himself with people who are positive, optimistic, believe in him as well. And I'm sure that that's been part of your success, is making sure that you're surrounded by people that are going to help you to get to your goals. Proper nutrition, going to keep you out of trouble, like keep you doing the right things that are going to help you to accomplish your big goal. So
yeah, that was huge.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I just wanted to, and again, if I open it up for questions, I know I'd have a ton of questions, but I just wanted to personally thank you for your time and to do this. And it was, I think sports and business are such a, like, there's so many great parallels that we can create between the two. And again, we like top performers in real estate are also have similar discipline as it relates to sports, and that's why I love the analogies and things like that. So with that, we'll go ahead and end it. Is there anything else that you want to share with the group before we're done? Is there anything that you wanted to convey?
No, that was it. I just appreciate you guys having me on.
Absolutely. And if you ever want a job in real estate, you give me a call back, right? And I'll make sure.
I don't know. My dad is in that field. Doesn't seem too fun all the time.
Exactly. I think your dad knows a lot of a lot of the leadership. Your dad has come to all the leadership things in Vegas with us. So for those that don't know, his dad is a big title rep here in Los Angeles, and was also participating in the Bay Area. But anyway, we really appreciate your time today, and really appreciate your insight. And we're all rooting for you for next season. Let's see where you wind up.
All right, I appreciate it.
Okay, you take care, and everybody, again, have a great week, and